In the spectrum of expert knife sharpener to never sharpened a knife before, I would say that I fall somewhere right around here. And if you don't listen to the introduction of this video and therefore the series, then you're not going to totally understand why I'm doing this. So this is how it got started. Last weekend, I spent 5 to 6 hours sharpening knives. And what's interesting is that in total, since I bought my first chef's knife in early 2013, this is a 10-inch Zwilling Pro. Since then, I probably in total have only spent maybe 8 to 9 hours worth of time sharpening knives. And like I said, 5 to 6 hours of that was last weekend. So here I am on Microsoft Teams, going back and forth with the owner, Michael. I had a couple of beers in me. I'm pretty sure he had a couple of beers in him. And we're talking about knife sharpening and stones and bridges and Whetstone. See, I don't even know the proper terms. Rigs. And this idea came to mind of creating a knife sharpening series that's super approachable and not coming from the expert over here. I'm not pointing to my phone to Michael. I'm just that spectrum, okay? Again, I'm like here. So some of these experts, they do these videos and they make it look so freaking easy, and then you go and try and do it and you end up with a knife that's duller than what you started with. I've been there, I understand. So I don't know how many episodes or parts or whatever, or even what this series is gonna be called yet. I'm just gonna get started. That's my intro. I'm trying to make this approachable and we're gonna learn together. I'm probably gonna say things that are wrong. I'm not gonna know all the tidbits of information and stuff to share, but you're gonna see my progression and then hopefully you will progress with me. The goal here is to just make you happier in the kitchen with sharper knives, and you don't need to know everything about knife sharpening. You just need to know enough to get a better blade. With that being said, I think I can officially say that my intro is over. Let's go. Okay, we are going to be whetstone sharpening, but this is what I started with. This is a sharpener that was my grandfather's, then my dad, and my dad gave to me. It's one you put oil on. I used this years ago to sharpen my fishing knives and things like that, and they were really never that great. So this is what I got started with. When I first started sharpening my chef's knife, I got this on Amazon for like 30 bucks. It is a 1000 and 6000 grit, which we're gonna learn about grits, sharpener. It's cheap, but you know what? It did the trick. It got my knife sharp. I have some sharpening stones here in front of me. One is half the price as the other, and I'm waiting for a text back from Michael. He's the owner of Cutlery more. Pretty sure they're made by the same manufacturer, and their price difference is double. Anyway, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I just want you to be able to get a whetstone. That's what you need. Whetstone. Whether you get it from us or you get it on Amazon, that is step one in getting started with sharpening knives. You don't have to spend a ton of money. Are these better than this? Absolutely. Can this get your knife sharp? Absolutely. Okay, moving on. This is a Whetstone sink bridge. You can put this on your sink and have your faucet there, or in this case, I have a Pyrex container. This is like their large, I don't know, 13 by 9 or something internal casserole dish, and this holds on to it pretty good. It's got some screws. This is the Kramer brand. We have one by Yaxell as well. There are fancier bridges, which I hope to get in the future because, I mean, this is from other ones that I looked at online. It does the trick, okay? You don't have to spend a ton of money on a bridge. And then I have an unfinished butcher block top here that I don't want to get all mucked up with, you'll see, in addition to just the water. So I've got a towel down, I've got a silicone dog mat, an extra towel here. I'm even standing on a pad to protect my carpet that I normally don't have, but I'm going to keep here because it feels good. And what I'm going to do here today is sharpen two completely different knives, but also two of the most common knives that there are. I'm going to put this back over here. I'm not worried about that today. The first knife that I'm going to sharpen is my third chef's knife, which would be a Wüsthof Classic that is 10 inches. And the reason I'm sharpening this, there's two really. One, the curvature of the blade is very easy to sharpen, even more so than my Zwilling because of the way this is super curved. You'll figure that out eventually. The other reason I'm sharpening this first is it's a full bolster knife, which, to be totally honest with you, is a pain in the ass to sharpen because it interferes with the flow that you get as you are going along. I sharpened my neighbor's full bolster Wüsthof Classic last weekend. I tried a couple of different things. I think I found a way that makes sense to do it. Never watched any videos on it. The only videos that I've really watched on sharpening were from Bob Kramer. So if you don't want to listen to my bald dome talk about this, then Google his videos or YouTube his videos. They're fantastic. But he's an expert. Good to learn from, but still an expert. Okay, so we're going to sharpen this. It's also huge. Believe it or not, a bigger knife is easier to sharpen. Sharpening paring knives and shorter utility knives can be a pain in the butt. A bigger blade is good. The next knife I'm going to sharpen is a Hatsukokoro Kurogane 6.5 inch Santoku that has no bolster. This is a traditional Japanese knife. And the reason I went with the Santoku is because next to a chef's knife, the Santoku is the second most popular knife style, definitely here in the United States and I'm sure other parts of the world. Now, you may have the German version of the Santoku, but the blade shape could be very similar. The other reason I want to sharpen this is a new series. This is only a $99 knife. We just got them in a couple weeks ago. They're hand forged. It's number 2 blue Aogami carbon steel. Aogami number 2 blue carbon steel. And carbon steel, even though it's a higher Rockwell, is easier to sharpen than a lower Rockwell stainless steel knife. I think I got that right. I might be wrong there. All I know is that carbon steel is easier to sharpen than stainless. Maybe the Rockwell will vary, but you're going to see a big difference in the amount of material that is going to come off of these blades as well. Okay, so they're the two knives I'm going to sharpen today. Hopefully this isn't a 3-hour-long video. And I have 3 different grits of Whetstone. I have a 400, and the 400 is going to be best for super dull knives, and I'm going to dull these knives so you can see. And then we're going to move up to the 1000, where you could probably stop there, and then we're going to go to the 5000 just because we can. I have paper because even though I think slicing paper is gimmicky, it is an indication of a sharp knife. So let's get started with the Wüsthof. Now, the trick here, from what I recently learned, is you really can tell the sharpness of a knife based off of if it can push through pretty much by just a little bit of weight, which that did a good job. But you got to do it at different parts. See, that doesn't want to push. Not too bad. Pushing is different than coming in and slicing like that. So is that sharp? Yeah, it is. This doesn't really want to go, which is why I'm sharpening it. Hand forged, awesome blades. You can't beat them for the price, but they are not lasers out of the box. I can tell you that. They do require a little bit of TLC. Now that pull is fine, but it grabbed at the tip. Listen. You can see it, I can feel it. It's like speed bumps. The tip here is definitely completely different than the base, which is pretty common because of that curve. Okay, so that's why we're going to be going through some paper today. Now, what I'm gonna do is dull these knives. Oh, I hate doing it. Oh, this is painful. Oh, that hurt to do. If you have a brick or a rock, or just go outside on your pavement or the concrete, it'll all do the same thing. All right, let's see how these perform now. Look at that. It won't even stay on the... Okay, dull. Dull. Like super dull. Look at the, see, it tore the paper. Instead of having like a nice clean slice, it is torn. So we've got 2 dull knives. Save this paper, we can reuse it. I recommend having a drink, depending on the time of the day. It is currently 1:34 p.m., so I have water and coffee. I like doing this with music playing, but it's quiet. It's dead quiet here. There's going to be some awkward pauses as I zone out. And now we're, I don't know how many minutes into this. I haven't even started yet, but, well, I've started, but I haven't started sharpening yet. I'm going to just let this all happen. I'm not going to edit a bunch of stuff out so you can see the process. Okay. First thing that we're going to do now that I dulled the shit out of these knives is we're going to get started with a 400 grit sharpener. I am going to use the Zwilling to get started here, and I'm going to go back and forth. Oops. Now you get to see how I adjust this, because I actually, oh, they're longer. Interesting. So underneath here, there's a little washer, like half moon washer type thing. So I'm just going to hold that. We're going to come up. Come on. There we go. And then I'm going to pull this back tight, holding the bottom part so I can screw this. Different bridges have different ways to go about getting them all on there. And now I'm just going to hit this with some water. Some Whetstones you can soak. Evidently the ones that have the glass backing, you should not soak in water for more than a couple of minutes. So we're just going to put some on top. Now the 400 grit here, the goal of this is to grind away at the steel. I just dulled that edge. So it has a rounded shape, rounded. That's a 2-word thing there. A rounded shape to it. And what we want to do is grind the edges, remove some of the steel so that we can bring it to a point. And based off of what Bob Kramer explained, when you get your edge to its new geometry, which is going to be completely up to you and the angle you hold it at, that at the tip here, you will have a, he calls it a wire, people have called it a beard or just a burr, where above the point, there is going to be a folded over little burr. When you get to that point, which you'll be able to feel on one side of the blade, you then move on to your next stone, which is going to help minimize that burr. It's going to further hone and shape, like just fine tune that edge. And then you move on to the next one if you want. And then you're going to hone or strop. And I left my leather strop downstairs, so I will have to take a TV timeout when it's time for that to get to it. Okay, let's get in. I'm going to start with the Wüsthof because it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt. I've got a nice bit of water on there. I've got towels. I've got this cutting board that's way too hard oak that I don't use for cutting things on, for things getting all messed up. And what I'm going to do is, I'm right-handed. I'm going to maintain my grip with my right hand. I'm not going to be switching because I am just bad with my left hand. And the goal here is to grind away and holding the blade at the angle of which you want it to be sharpened. They say it's anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees. You're not going to be able to tell that. And if you get one of those little guards that are the perfect degree angle, guess what? The second you go off of where the guard is, because it doesn't cover the entire knife, you're going to move. So don't worry about using those guards or anything. Just get the feel for it. You can feel it and you can hear it. And we're going to go from tip to heel. Now this bolster right here likes to get in the way. So as I'm coming up, basically right there is where I would have to stop. Well, when I did my neighbor's Wüsthof the other day, I just kept going right into it. Is that going to damage a little bit of the side of my stone here? Maybe, but I'm going to have a sharp edge. The other thing that I did was right where the bolster comes up. This is dull and then it's sharp right there. I got started by just going like this, and I'm going right up against that line. You want to use larger strokes so you don't get a dip in your stone here. You can already see the steel coming off here. So my goal right now is to create an edge as close to this bolster as possible. I've had full bolster knives professionally sharpened that have come back where the first inch wasn't sharp at all. I don't want that. I want to be able to use as much of this as possible. So we're going to focus on grinding away at the base here first, or just kind of going all the way up into the bolster. I'm putting pressure at the top and I'm putting pressure right here on the side of the blade. So it's even all throughout. And then when I change sides, I'm getting pressure at the top and then my finger's gonna change here. Sometimes I come down here, you're gonna see kind of the different ways that I've done this and what has and hasn't worked for me. Now you can hear it's an even sound, and that's another reason why doing this without music, at least getting started in the background, is probably best, because you gotta listen to the stone. If you're up on different angles, like, it makes different sounds. So once you find that sweet spot, try and duplicate that sound when you get to the other side and then when you come back, if that makes sense. And in the sense of pressure, it's enough to keep the blade stable. Now, watch this elbow. As I come down, I'm kind of flaring out a little bit. And the reason why is because as I come this way, I'm turning the blade ever so slightly so that I am moving with the curvature of the tip of the blade while also maintaining the angle as best I can. When you get into blades that have a really hard curve, like this Zwilling Pro, it gets trickier. There's a lot of movement there, or you have to do almost like a small area like this, and then the straighter edge. So I've done this side more than enough times already, and so we're gonna switch. This is a completely different feel than the other direction. Notice the curve. I'm coming, I'm using as much of the stone as possible, but when I get to the tip here, I'm curving back. The other thing that I've found last weekend is here I'm doing like this. So if I turn the blade this way, I'm essentially doing the same thing in reverse. And this is somewhat comfortable to do. Now I'm feeling the edge here. I'm going right up onto this bolster. I don't care if it leaves little scratches because I want this to be sharp. per side, maybe 10 to 15, like 1, 2 is 1. So 1 and 2 and. There's 10. Woo! Gotta pay attention. You're dealing with a slippery, dull object right now, but it will eventually get sharp. I sliced my thumb open the other day. It was just like a topical slice, but hey, it happens. The sound just changed. And I believe it's changing because the geometry is changing. It's also getting a little dry. You'll notice that the wetter the stone is, the quieter it will sound. And then the finer the grit, the quieter it will sound as well. Okay, so this is just nothing down here. So I'm really going to put some love into this. The reason I'm doing that is I can hear the difference, but when we're feeling that burr, you're coming down from the side like this, not this way, which we'll get to in a minute because I want to get this going a little bit more. You don't need to put a ton of pressure down. Let the stone do the grinding, not a bunch of force. I mean, that is right there. That flow back and forth should feel like rowers on a boat, like the team rowers. It should just be fluid. It shouldn't feel bumpy. It shouldn't feel awkward. If the right height isn't there, then adjust your setup, but it should just feel good. It should sound even. Hear that first swipe that I just did? It didn't sound right because I just got uneven. Okay, so now wipe off the little bits of steel and stuff from the stone. And then you're going to come down the side of the blade Hear that? My finger's catching. Now listen to the other side. It's not there. Two reasons. The last side that I sharpened was this side, so it was pushing that burr, that wire, beard, whatever the hell you want to call it, to this side, but it's even. All the way down. So now we're going to move on to the next stone. What I usually do is give this a little rinse. Usually do like, since last weekend, since I used this for the first time, that's what I usually do. Now we're going to go to the 1000. And you'll notice that the sound of the grind is quite a bit quieter compared to the other. Back and forth, figure eights, swirly dirlies. Swirly, is that a thing? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It just matters that you're consistent and you are keeping the right angle, and that's that. I'm sure someone is going to say, no, pushing's better than pulling, and doing, I don't know, horseshoe, I don't know. Who cares? Get a sharp knife. Let's go this way. See, it just sounds weird. It's because of that bolster. I can tell that I'm not getting this tip as even. Okay. I don't know if these, I just got a text back. All I can say is these stones, the Yaxell and the Kramer, are near identical. One's thicker than the other, and they have a pretty significant price difference. That's all I'll say. A lot of times, you got a really sharp body, but you get to the tip of the knife, and it is not sharp because of that curve. And it's hard to figure out how to get that right feel. This 10-inch is going to feel different than the 8-inch. It's just, it is what it is. The good thing about learning how to sharpen is if you mess up, you get to try again. If you do a really good job, you're still going to get to try again because your knife is going to eventually need it again. Okay, but doing it this way is so much different than this way, which is why I do enjoy doing it like this. It just sounds different. So now I'm trying to even out that burr from, instead of being folded over to one side, just kind of keep it more centered. Feels pretty good. I feel like the tip here still needs a little bit of work. Okay. Let's clean this up. Smooth. There's a tiny little bit of a burr on that side. Now what's interesting is, without going to the 5,000 or even putting this on the strop, so it won't push, but it'll slice without a problem. So a lot of knives can do that, but you want it to be able to go straight down, and it's not there yet. So let's move on up to the 5,000, which is going to further refine the edge, as well as it's going to get rid of the majority of that burr, from what I understand. And then I'm gonna have a TV timeout to run downstairs and grab the strop. That's where the magic really happens. Listen to the difference here. So those sounds, it's getting hung up on the edge here, I can hear. So you can take the cleaning stone here, this gets rid of the little bits of steel that are on the stone, and it opens up the pores, evidently, and allows better sharpening. Oop, just broke off a little piece there. Probably doing something wrong here. Don't worry. We're going to figure this out together, folks. It's really stuck on there. My God. I feel like I'm doing something wrong, but that's the whole point of this series. Yeah, something's... I don't know if I maybe messed up the stone or if that's normal to hear, or... You can see the steel, that black line is real thick on the edge there, and then right here. It could also be because I'm going too high up with the bolster. That's probably... Ooh, this is getting slippery. I feel like the sound of this is louder than the Kramer video that I watched on this stone, but I don't know how fine their mic is. It's like what you hear on YouTube versus real life. You can see I'm getting quite a bit of material off the blade even on this harder stone. Harder stone, I mean, probably not harder stone, but higher grit stone. I love that sound. I can feel a little bit of that burr. Okay, I'm gonna stop there and hope that I can get a push through. I'm gonna go grab my strop. Be right back. Okay, this is a Kramer strop. Leather, some type of felt or something, and just a light piece of wood. It's pretty grippy on your counter, whatever. With this, we're going to go, instead of grinding into the blade, we're going to go against it. So we're going to go from tip to heel at a pretty, let's see, can you guys see? Well, I don't want to move everything. So if you can't, oh, there we go. That's probably a good spot. Perfect. Okay. I'll move up a little bit. Tip to heel. Okay. All right. Listen, you're just going to have to look at it from this way. Okay. Tip to heel. Tip to heel. I'm giving a little bit of pressure, and I'm at a finer angle than I was over there. And I don't know if you can tell the, let's see if I can get a good reflection. No, maybe a little bit at the tip here. It's like got this mirror-like polish to it, and you can see it after just a couple of passes. If you don't have a strop, it is, in my opinion, superior to a honing rod, steel or ceramic. Fresh piece of paper. I hope this pushes. Okay, got caught a little bit right there, but I'm just letting the weight of the knife. So a push straight down, it's getting caught. It could be just the angle of the paper. Get rid of you, get rid of you. Let's do a little slice. Got caught right there. Okay, that could have just been paper angle. Is this super sharp and can go through a tomato in no time? Absolutely. But I'm looking for any hiccups. I think there might be just a tiny one at the tip. I mean, it's so minor that I would say that this is a pretty sharp knife. See that heel there? Once you get like an inch up, it's just because of that freaking bolster. Yeah, so I'm gonna put this in the, this is a sharp knife, and it may not be perfect, but for the sake of this video, if I had to go prep a 10-course meal and this is the only blade I had, I would be quite happy with it. I want it to be better, but I don't want this to be a 3-hour-long video. Let's move on to the next knife. I would say 7 out of 10. Okay, we're gonna move on to the Santoku here. Give that a little rinse. I'll clean that before I move on to that when I get to it. Move on to it before I get started with it, rather. Okay, let's go back to the 400. You saw this in the beginning. dull as all get out. Let's give it a good grind. Now, this is going to be a completely different feel and everything because I don't have that bolster. It's a little bit shorter of a blade. It's also a little bit straighter of an edge profile. Here we go. Whew, okay, there we go. Finding the groove of that curve, and especially because of how dull it was, it like, there we go. Okay, so I can feel the burr, but it's not there yet. Let's try going. See, that feels good with this blade because it doesn't have the bolster. There we go. It's such a different experience not having to sharpen and grind around the bolster. No burr. Burr all the way down. Yeah, I like it this way. Okay, the last side I did was this side, so this side is where I can feel the burr all the way down. And at the tip. Moving on to the 1000. Just trying to get through this one. Listen, when you are first starting, and even in the Bob Kramer video I watched with his Carbon 2.0, where he scratched all the bottom side of the blade, it's just a part of it. without buffers and different things. I know they make super high grit stones that can help get that out, evidently, and there's buffing machines. But listen, if you kind of scratch the side of your blade, oh well, it's a tool. It's like a pickup truck. You're supposed to use it. You get a little scratch on it because you had 10 loads of wood in the back. Well, shit happens. It's a tool. If you have a really expensive knife and you want a professional to sharpen it, let them take responsibility for making sure it doesn't come back with scratches on the side. But you're going to get scratches on the side. The other day, after like hour, I don't even know, sharpening, whew, my watch was like, do you want me to record the elliptical workout? Because of doing this motion. Thought that was funny. Haha. Get a little stir crazy here. Usually in the evening, maybe a drink, some good tunes playing. It's a little bit different than being by yourself in a quiet room in front of 2 cameras and having to fill the void with some type of entertainment. Ooh, that sounds weird. There we go. I don't know if you can tell because the stones are dark, but the amount of material that's coming off the blade, the black here, is significantly different than the softer steel Wüsthof. So earlier I said something like one is going to be harder than the other. I was wrong there. A stainless steel knife at the same Rockwell is going to be harder to sharpen than a carbon steel. So if this is 62 Rockwell, high carbon versus stainless, the stainless will be harder. But in this backwards thing, this is easier to sharpen still just because of the fact that it is such a much lower Rockwell, I think. Get rid of you. Okay, give us a little clean. Really got to get that curve, I feel, for these tips. It's a different animal than the rest of the straighter edge. This is starting to feel really smooth, and the sound very small burr on that side. Let's see how this does on paper without going to the 5000 or on the strop. Slicing is fine. Doesn't really want to push, but I mean, definitely better than what it was before after I destroyed it. Okay, we're going to the 5000. I'm going to clean this. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on best practices with the cleaning stone. Something doesn't feel totally right. Maybe I'm pressing too hard. Oh yeah, that's it. I was just pressing too hard. I just totally loosened up my pressure by like 80%. And now I'm getting that little slurry that it's called, which I'm going to get the edge a little bit here and then flatten it back out. Oh yeah. Okay, so there we go. This is what's cool, hopefully, about this video for some of y'all. It's these little things, like don't put a ton of pressure on your high grit stone when you're trying to clean it. It feels so much better compared to the Wüsthof. Trying to find like, okay, there we go. There it is. There it is. It's more tip, base, while keeping the knife, instead of going like this. Okay. It's a completely different angle than doing on this side. This, you're going in the same motion, but it just, I don't know, you just got to go by feel, see what works for you. Like, that's not bad, but that to me just feels a little bit more natural. I'm excited to use this knife after it's a bit sharper than it was out of the box. You know, you can just look at the edge at different angles of the light as well and see how even it is. So without stropping, a little bit of pressure, it's just a lighter knife. Tip to heel, tip to heel. The last couple, I like to almost do it flat just because it polishes the blade a little bit more. And you can see, I mean, it's like when the light catches it when it's freshly stropped like that, you can nearly see your reflection. Come on. Yeah, it's a bit wasteful. I'm listening and feeling. It's pretty even. Let's see if I can get real close here. You can see it, you can hear it. And then what's the, I think I can do this with some, give a little curve. I don't know exactly how they do this, but. Let's try a bigger piece. Some of these guys like roll it up and tape it or something, and then they come at it on an angle with like nothing on there. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but this has got a couple layers to it. Hey! Oh, there's a third one. It's like dumb little face. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. Like I said, that just added another hour or so of sharpening experience to my sharpening journey. So, in the world of expert sharpener to total noob, never sharpened before, I was somewhere right around here. I would say, ready? Right there. Moving on up. I don't know how, I don't know if I really have anything else to say other than that. I hope you learned something. Here's an idea. I've got a ton of different types of knives. I've got Miyabi, Shun, Messermeister, Wüsthof, tons of Enzos, Nigara, the new Zuma, Kurosaki, another Enzo, all these CCKs, Steelport, Yaxell, Yoshikane, Town Cutler, I mean, Globals. I've got a ton of different knives. Hatsukokoro. I also have various blade shapes throughout. So what I'd like you to do is comment with what knives you would like to see me sharpen. It can be hyper specific. If I don't have it, I will look that knife up and I will find something that has a similar blade shape. It doesn't matter if it's a $50 knife or a $500 knife. I will dull it and then we'll sharpen it together. Throughout this series, I'm probably going to do one every 3 or 5 weeks, somewhere in that ballpark. Let's just say once a month. I will be showing up hopefully with some different stones that you can see in action that are going to vary in their price point, maybe different bridges, different setups, strops, honing rods, which I didn't do today. I did the strop because I just like the strop better. Sometimes when I'm prepping, I will go real quick on a honing rod while I'm in the middle of prepping, but I always finish my prep with the strop. And most of the time I do that because I can grab a wet or somewhat dirty knife, boom, boom, boom on the steel or the ceramic rod. I don't want to get this wet. So there you have it. empty out your water, clean everything up, clean your high grit with less pressure before you put everything away. These have glass bottoms, so generally that's what I'll do is I will dry off the glass bottom, put it on a dry towel, and then I'll just let the rest of these air dry. This I will pull apart and make sure that it is completely dry, because the reality is, you know, you're probably doing this depending on how many knives you have and how often you're using them. You might not have to sharpen, but for every couple of months. I'm going to be sharpening more often because I'm going to be intentionally dulling my knives to learn more. If you have any constructive criticism, please have at it. If you're just going to be some freaking Reddit bro and come in here and be like, you have no idea what you're doing, I'm just going to, I don't know, remind you about the intro of this video that you forgot to watch. That's it. Okay, folks, I'm tired. That was it's a lot of working out, a lot of talking. So I'm going to wrap this up. It's wrapped. Let's just say that. I'm Chef Brandon with Cutlery More. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this inspired you a little bit to want to at least learn more about sharpening your knives. We'll see you in episode 2 or part 2 or whatever we're calling this series, whenever that video comes up in the future. Take care. Ooh, that was a good one.